Hi everybody, how are you doing tonight? Today's goth band recommendation, ignore the double chin, I do apologize, is Susperia. Kind of a decently known goth band, right? Best known for like dark wave and gothic rock, etc. This is I feel like this is a band that should be on everybody's playlist. To be honest, this is a band like, how can you not like Susperia? But this is also a band that's not entirely well known because, well, their music is not quite out there. Like you can't really find it on any music platforms except for YouTube. And if you can find a CD like this, it's kind of rare. I looked ages for this a few years ago. And this is just a dance floor tragedy, the best of Suspiria. So this has allegedly dance floor tragedy, glitter, all in pieces. My personal favorite, You Bleed Me. I love that song. Every time it goes on the radio, or not on the radio, every time it plays, and I'm like in the car, I'm like, hold the phone, stop, this is my jam. So, this is a band that I definitely recommend you guys checking it out, and hopefully you guys might like some of their music. So today's video is going to be goth tips, I guess. You can say like tips in the goth subculture, I guess, if for baby bats or for people, wanting to get into the subculture. And, there's some important tips. The first two I would say are the most important, and then after that, well, I guess the first three tips are the most important, but after that, it's so on. I'm not gonna do as much like video stopping and stuff because I am doing this with my phone, so bear that in mind, please, and let's get started. Okay, so tip number one, which I believe everybody who's truly in the subculture can agree, is this is a music-based subculture. And, that means, you gotta listen to at least some of the music to, you know, get into goth, The music is what started it. If it wasn't for the music, there wouldn't be the clubs, there wouldn't be the clothing lines, there wouldn't be the festivals, there wouldn't be any of that. So the music is by far the most important thing. That's just what it is. The second most thing, which is like the second tip, is it is kind of political. It is very political in ways because it did derive from punk, and especially with death rock music, it is very political to topics like with religion and etc. Take the band Christian Death and 45 Grey, for example. But it is a very political, and you're gonna hear my cat. She's gonna be meowing and wanting to go on my lap. But anyways, it is a very political thing, and it's political in the sense that we accept people that are gay, people of color, people in the LGBT community, mental health disorders, everybody that really, anybody can fit in here, you just can't really act racist or homophobic and etc. For the goth subculture, unfortunately, we do have people that kind of falsely represent the subculture, but we do try our best to take that out of proportion. Like I remember a few years ago when the band, I'm not trying to butcher the name, but the band Sonsonbury, they were getting really big at one point, and everybody was really into them, and they made some good music. And then it was until the lead singer had some very, I can't remember exactly what he said, but I think it was like along the lines of transphobic stuff. And it was like less than a few days where everybody stopped listening to them. They stopped going on tours, stuff like that. It was very interesting, and get down, a very very fast situation that us goths like to try to handle. So when we do find people that are basically conservative, right? That have beliefs that are harmful to innocent people, um, that it needs to be shut down and stuff like that. So that is another very important tip. The third tip, which can be debatable about how important it is, but the third tip is, for me, is you gotta look into, which kind of falls into the political situation, is you gotta look into the story and the case of Sophie Lancaster. She was a goth that was beaten and killed, basically about who she was. It was a hate crime, and it was a really big situation over in the UK. And it's something that's not quite well known in America, and it's something that really should be, because the whole situation with Sophie Lancaster being discriminated against for being a goth and being beaten to death for being a goth, a hate crime, that is something that is very common in the United States. Well, not necessarily to death, but people in the United States that are goths everyone that's been goth long enough has experienced discrimination again upon them, and experienced physical assaults, whether it's from their family or whether it's from some random person on the street, right? It is a story that I feel like every goth should really familiarize themselves with, and kind of help out and make sure that everybody is safe. That is very important to me, at least. That is my third tip. The fourth tip, I would say the fourth tip would be, when it comes to doing makeup. I very much agree with a lot of the things that Black Friday originally said. At first, when you start out with makeup, you don't have to do makeup. But, if you're going to do makeup, at first when you start out, especially if you're like under the adult age, start little, start with mascara, and then very gradually go to eyeliner, foundation, stuff like that, to not only get your family used to the transition, but also to get you used to the creativity of makeup, if that makes sense. Like, start light and then grow as you can continue to learn more about makeup, right? It is a very experimental thing. I would also say that practicing your makeup, if you want to get into makeup, that is, practicing before you go to bed is a good idea. That way if you mess up, nobody's gonna look at it, and if you do a good job, you can take a quick selfie, or take a quick picture of it and post it on Facebook and stuff, and you can keep that diary and that in as like a little diary. But if you mess up, nobody's gonna know, so before you go to bed is a good way. My other tip is, when it comes to makeup, I personally don't like listening to makeup tips from like people in general, or like makeup content creators, because everybody's face is different. Everybody's face skull is shaped differently, right? Your face is shaped differently. So while the person that you're watching, they're doing this really perfect wing look, it's not going to look the same on you. you know, it is a very, you know, you can kind of listen to like the techniques of how they did it, you know, and make it to where you like it on yourself. But I personally don't like those kind. I personally don't like a lot of tips that a lot of makeup artists are people who do gothic makeup on TikTok or on the YouTube platform kind of uh, put that out, like be like, you have to do it like this when you really don't. Makeup is a very experimental thing, which is why on, at least on YouTube, I won't really post any um, makeup videos. I'll probably post like reels or something like that of me doing makeup, not like tutorials or anything like that, because it's a very experimental thing, and that's very common with goth, you know. The next tip I have is something that's part of goth is religious symbols um, are have always been worn, even if the goth wasn't part of that religion, right? Like a lot of goths would wear crosses, even if they weren't Christian or whatever other religions that use it. You know, rosaries, pentagrams, pentacles. Um, Religious symbols are a very common thing when it comes to like the goth soul culture, and you know, it's okay if you wear it and you're not part of that religion, but I do advise you kind of learn what the symbol means and what it represents, because like at least with the cross, you know, it wasn't always a Christian symbol. Before that, it was a different symbol of different other religions, you know. um so kind of gonna learn about the history about that and of each religious symbols, you know, learn the history about rosaries and why it's so sacred to those people. The next tip I have is, you know, when you're going to cemeteries, you know, for like photo shoots, stuff like that, you're going to anywhere, yeah, any cemetery or any like sacred place, you know, just, you know, to do like your extra goth points, right? Just be mindful to be very respectful of the dead, because a lot of cemeteries are still active and people are still mourning. So be very respectful and try to keep keep that in mind. Aside from that, I'm not gonna really tell you where to buy your clothes, because you know, that's, you know, I prefer, you know, I think it's a good thing to support small businesses and stuff like that, but the reality is not everybody has that kind of money, and if we're going to go political with that, nearly every clothing business and anything is very controversial, including thrift stores. So, you know, it's a very clothing the clothing line business history is a very skeevy thing. It's a very skeevy topic to talk about, really. But I do advise, if you can and have the money, as best as you can, support the small businesses within the goth community. Support the small little goth stores by, you know, liking their pages on Facebook or sharing the stuff that they make, you know, maybe stuff like that. The last tip that I have for you is to understand that your goth wardrobe is not going to happen overnight. It never happens for anybody overnight. I'm still making mine, trying to collect mine. It is something that is very time consuming. You know, sometimes you gotta work for a little bit and earn that kind of money to be able to purchase the specific item that you want. You know, got to go through loads of other stuff. You know, preferably pay your bills first before you get, you know, that clothing item. And yeah, so that's basically all I have for tips, goth tips for BabyBats. And yeah, stay spooky and happy October month, I suppose. Bye.